going to invite Chad Summey and the panelists up to the stage, please. This next session, again, you'll hear panelists' comments that is meant to provide context for your table talk. This session focuses on co-investing through capital and talent strategy.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chad Summey with eGateway Capital. It's a pleasure to be with you. Karen, I get to talk about my favorite topic of why we are a community of choice. Prior to my current gig at eGateway, I had the pleasure of scaling a Silicon Valley company here in town and got to convince all the executives, first, where Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati was, and then second, of why this is such an awesome place to scale and grow your business. And it was a joy and a passion that I continue now in my current gig and all the work we're doing with 1NKY. But growing industries and talent, I don't think the earlier panel could have better illustrated how much it matters to be a community of choice. John, more bridges than walls, used the direct quote, which I think was powerful. And then also just connecting the dots of why Gravity is here and then why they've had so much success scaling here are dots that I think many in this room have not connected before, and it's important to do so. And so this panel is going to talk a little bit about both financial capital, why it plays a preeminent role in scaling, in addition to human capital. But we introduced the corridor of commerce concept, I guess it's been a couple years ago now. Brent just mentioned it. And I think it's important to just remind everybody, I'll go back, what really this concept is. And we sit in such geographic superiority. I don't think that's news to anybody in the room. We have assets here that are very unique, and to take inventory of why those assets matter, not just in our past 100 years, but why they matter into the future economy is really the work that has to be done. And with that comes language that others outside our region understand of why this 100 miles west, north, south of where we sit is so preeminent to the future economy. And when you think about our assets in town, Procter & Gamble, the largest consumer products good company in the world, is magnificent, has had a storied history to our growth. Kroger, the largest standalone grocer in the country. And then most important to Northern Kentucky, the one asset that has gravitational pull to move a community is the airport. And Larry's leadership there to continue that narrative of sitting on in the state, in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. We are the only airport with 2 major cargo hubs, and with 100 miles south with UPS, we're the only state with 3 in one state. So when we think about the corridor of commerce concept and how important the movement of goods plays across industry, so think manufacturing, think all the industries we thought, who would have thought a life sciences lab that scaled here, when Nick brought to life of why they scaled here, had everything to do with the movement of goods. So it's a great demonstration of across industries that it's really pervasive to everything we want to do. The importance, naturally, of what the industry I play in and funding strategy also plays a big role, and we're going to talk about that, and likewise talent attraction and retention for human capital to fuel both organic growth as companies scale. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to our experts on the panel, our friends Dave, Tara, and Bob.
Okay. Dave, if you'll kick it off.
Okay, we are good. Well, first off, thank you everyone for coming. What we're going to be discussing is really the capital side. So in my role as executive director for Blue North, we are the innovation hub for Northern Kentucky. What that means is we're really meant to be that front door for high growth entrepreneurship and startups. The fuel that allows those startups to happen is capital. Capital is what drives that. It really empowers so much across the board for us. And we're looking at a few different ways with that. First off, we're very happy and fortunate that with support of many of this room, we recently opened Spark House. Spark House is meant to be that front door. 2.5 years ago, Chad and I had this idea that we needed a place that would be the house of our startup community. Most importantly, we needed a place that was going to be the house of capital, because capital is what drives it. Fast forward to today, In the building, we have 35 private offices, where at 32 of those 35 are already committed. But the thing that I think we celebrate the most is it's actually the home of the most venture capitalists anywhere in the entire region. We have eGateway, we have Fire Road Capital, we have Keyhorse Capital, we have Commonwealth Seed Capital, we have the Kentucky Angel Collective. Nowhere have we had that much coming together. That capital stack is so important. The reason that capital stack is so important is that while we're making wins, we are behind of where we need to go. So overall, if you look at some of the stats for the amount of funding that we have for the region, we are following behind our peers anywhere from 1/3 to 1/10 of the funding that we see in Tennessee, Indiana, and Ohio. We need to catch up on that. We need to drive that. And the way we're going to be able to do that is through capital coordination. How do we get more of our funds working together? Starting at that early phase, going all the ways through to the growth equity that eGateway drives, we need to do that. We need to bring those investors together, celebrate our best, make the connections. We need to embrace our sectors. How can those sectors that we have an unfair advantage in, not try and be everything for everybody, but lean in on the things where we have an unfair advantage, because that's how we're going to win. And then we have to think about policy alignment. We were fortunate that Congress Barr, who's with us today, organized a few of us to actually talk about the alignment of policy for venture and how can we drive that together and think about. We need more efforts like that. That is how we're going to really get ahead and think about where we need to go. And then finally, on the next slide, is we also need to think about how do we lean in on the things that are working. So very fittingly, the first panel that we had is actually some of our best success stories. When you look at what we're doing first off with life sciences, stories like Gravity Diagnostic are amazing for our region. We also have others like Bexion Pharmaceuticals that are tackling the world's biggest problems for us and are embraced for what it can do and where we can do. And they're attracting national venture capital. It's not just local capital, it's national. And then we have great companies like our friends at Beltways that are really pushing of what's possible. We have an advantage to be able to live in combining things like advanced manufacturing with startup innovation that becomes a double hit for us. We win both on the white collar side of things of creation, but also in the job creation of the manufacturing. That's what's going to drive our innovation economy forward, but it all starts with driving the capital and the partnerships for that.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Tara, we'll turn to you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Tara Johnson-Nome, and I'm the Executive Director of the Northern Kentucky Area Development District. If you have not heard of an AD, as we call ourselves, we were created as a special purpose unit of government really to be at the hub between the public sector, the private sector, and our nonprofits. So we were created to administer large federal and state grant funds, to provide technical assistance to our 52 cities and 8 county governments, and to enable regional collaboration. And so my role today is really to highlight that economic imperative of having that community strategy so that we can build the supports for regional infrastructure, for business, workforce development, as well as those quality of life amenities that are going to make us that community of choice. So last year, as we worked toward the organizational alignment that Karen spoke about just earlier, we talked about the need for additional regional collaboration around defining projects, leveraging both that private and public sector funding to get them to happen, and really increasing our relationships with our public funders, state, federal, as well as those private donors. So thanks to all those that are in the room today, so that we can leverage the assets and prioritize. So since that time, the Area Development District has done a number of things to move us in that direction, along with some of our growth partners. So we've supported our governments and regional growth organizations by creating a grant guidebook so that we have a better understanding of what's typically available in terms of public sector dollars. We've created some additional support for cities, counties, and nonprofits to apply for grants. And we're currently working on a tracking system so we know what have we gotten and how do we do better next time for those ones that got away. We know also that the regional growth organizations continue to meet and coordinate, and I think it's really important to note that more than ever before, we're starting to leverage across organizations, not just coordinating our work, but also sharing aptitudes and capacities. So we're seeing multiple organizations working together toward marketing our region for new talent. We're seeing multiple organizations work together even for finance services and things like that, so that we're using our best talent and putting our best face forward for toward the world as we're becoming that community of choice. And so as we continue to work together, we know that we have some headwinds that we need to think about. So to be competitive, we need to continue to lean on the private side of cooperation, with our public sector funds being a little more uncertain lately. As we move forward, and we're not sure exactly what the shape and size of some of those federal programs are going to be, let's make sure that we are best leveraging every dollar that we have. To increase our effectiveness and reduce redundancy, we also need to grow the dependence and integration between some of these public plans and reports. The SHIFT plan for roads, the WIOA plan for workforce, the SEDS plan for economic development, with our economic and business-led initiatives, so that we make the best use of every possible resource. And we must prioritize and be ready to identify the return on investment for these important regional infrastructure projects, whether they are a park, a road, a bridge, a lab, so that we can share that vision to grow support, funding, and enthusiasm about where Northern Kentucky is headed. So we're proud to be a part of it with 1NKY and to steer that regional collaboration. Thanks.
Thank you, Tara. Incredible coordination and collaboration with these two presentations. And now we turn to the talent piece of this, of the human capital, which is so important to our existing assets and our growth sectors. Bob?
Hello. We've all heard of the struggles that some cities have with brain drain, the loss of talent seeking greener pastures elsewhere. And there was a time here in Northern Kentucky where that was a challenge for us. But in the last decade, we've held our own in this regard for certain, mainly because we've built a vibrant regional economy. We have a low cost of living, and we have a myriad of cultural and livable community assets. And we've put talent strategies in place, like our entrepreneurial ecosystem, that's keeping talent in our region and attracting talent to our region. Hello, I'm Bob Heil. I'm the Executive Director of Strategic Relationships and Community Engagement at KLH Engineers, and I'm honored, proud, and excited to have been asked to be the inaugural Executive Director of Launch NKY Center for Civic Leadership at NKU. While Northern Kentucky is home to some real incredible talent, our region faces a growing need for leaders who are prepared, connected, and committed to serving our communities. Launch NKY Center for Civic Leadership is designed to meet this need by cultivating civic-minded, regionally grounded leaders who will step into meaningful leadership roles in our region. Would you believe that across our 3 counties, there's almost 2,000 positions of leadership that need to be filled on an ongoing basis? Yes, 2,000. Now, imagine if we included all the seats from all of our friends that Tara serves in Pendleton, Bracken, Gallatin, Carroll, Owen counties as well. It's daunting. These positions include planning commissions, boards of adjustments, nonprofit boards, boards of directors for our growth organizations like the Chamber, BNKY, Meet NKY, Catalytic Fund, Horizon Fund, the 1NKY Alliance, elected positions on school boards, city councils, fiscal courts, state legislatures, and judicial courts. I could go on and on, you know. The point is that every one of these positions is an opportunity for our people to lead. The goal of Launch NKY is to equip participants with the skills and confidence to lead with vision and integrity, to strengthen community connections amongst businesses, nonprofits, and civic institutions, and to ensure that the region's future is rooted in Northern Kentucky's history, assets, and opportunities. It will provide the extra level of enrichment that creates even stronger bonds of commitment between our community and the talent we want to have here to drive the impact of our high-growth industry sectors. I'll argue that placing talent in leadership roles is one of the best talent strategies we can deploy. As Dave Spalding said at the beginning of the program, we need to create a strong sense of belonging, and this purposeful engagement with future leaders does just that. So while other cities struggle with brain drain, let Northern Kentucky be known for brain gain, and we're anxious to hear what your ideas are as it relates to how we get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And again, table talk time. We'll spend 15 minutes. We want your ideas based on what you heard today. Please keep the guiding questions in mind. We'll ask for some call-outs at the end of the session, but also keep the 3 overarching goals that we've been talking about as well. And again, creating the community roadmap. We are one, we are a community of choice, and we hold ourselves accountable. So with that, we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, panel. Okay, we're going to close this table session. Lots of good discussion. And we've got the roving microphone for your top takeaways. We'd like to spend a few minutes hearing what those might be, and we have a winner here with Ryan in the back. Here's our first table takeaway.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Hannah Edlin. Our table talked about an area in Covington where we're being innovative, specifically with Read Ready Covington, where we are engaging our families and offering some really robust early learning experiences.
Thank you. Any other table want to share their outcomes?
That's what I get for waving at somebody. My name is Jeff Bessaker, and we have, of course, quite a few things going on here. One of those that we're dealing with, if I may, is the idea that we have to continue thinking about what the next generation is wanting. A lot of, I think what Bob was talking about is the lack of, the number of leadership positions that are not being filled. We also need to make sure that the attraction to the next generation, the 20 and 30 somethings, do they want more bicycles? They want more parks. They want more, livability pieces. And if we're not adding those along, again, I think that we said that the resources and money was not an issue here, right? Just brainstorming. How do we put those bike trails on almost every road? How do we connect the parts of our community, especially those that are geographically challenged with the hills and the accessibility like that? Maybe we need Beltway to get involved with some of that along our bike trails too. But nonetheless, I think that's where we were going. We can't think about our old love of the automobile. We need to, in this regard, think, what's the next steps on that? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, yes. I'm Jason Reeser from Cincinnati Off-Road Alliance. I did my best to try to get my table to talk about transportation and trails as an amenity and getting around without cars. But our table came together around mentoring for leadership, training opportunities, and thinking about things like the leadership Northern Kentucky style, of course, and can that be brought to all NKU students, and other like the Citizens Academy, how can that be expanded? Because when people learn and understand about government, they feel more enabled, they understand it, there's more trust, there's more transparency, they know where to find the numbers, and that enables them to get more involved with the community and in government leadership opportunities.
Thank you, Jason. Ryan, we have, Reese.
Reese D'Angelo. And we kicked off our topic, Living in Dreamland, which was great if funding was not an issue, about the support of childcare in the region. We need to recognize that childcare is an economic development tool as well as a talent attraction tool, and being able to take a look at supplements for both childcare workers and parents to both accomplish those means to continue to create that community of choice in Northern Kentucky that is able to, provide for employees, provide for businesses, business attraction, as well as provide for childcare workers as well, which are, currently underpaid in the region. So.
Thank you, Reese. And Reese is an intern with the Catalytic Fund. We see him every day and all his skills, so thank you for that. Lynn?
Sure. So, of course, we started off talking infrastructure, et cetera, and then we came a lot of like this previous conversations. And one of the thoughts at our table, and maybe with the exception of Reese, was like, not a dig on us in this room, but what is the average age in this room? And there's not a lot of 20-somethings floating around. And we don't want to put it all on Bob Heil, but we kind of came around there and said, hey, Bob, what are you doing? You've been in that position at least 2 weeks. But like, what do we do to get our schools to teach early about the power and the opportunity on contributing and leading in your communities? Not just about what your job is going to be, but what is, you're going to do for your community as well. And having that culture as kids come up early through school system, we think would be really high.
Great. Thank you, Lynn. One more. You've got another one? Over here?
Good afternoon. I'm Vicki Burling. And our table immediately talked about consolidation. If we're talking about easing the way for businesses to be successful, the idea that we have, some consolidation of entities, tax entities, and civic engagement, so that would make it a lot easier for businesses to be nimble and to get some things done. So that's where we went.
Great. Thank you, Vicki. Okay, lots of great ideas, and we're going to capture a lot of this with your table notes. We've got one more session to go, but please do not leave with those table notes. Find Ryan and hand those off. So our third and final session will be led by Dr. Joe Chillo of Thomas More University, and our panelists, if they could make their way to the tables.